All right, now we come time to get ready to go to bed. Not really. So we're going to go over sleep and arousal now. Chapter 9 of your book will be useful. First thing here, we all go through rhythms basically every day of being awake and asleep. And these are called, as your book basically says, circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms are basically the cycle you have when you're awake, when you're sleeping. I think right at the beginning of the chapter it actually uses that term on 308 of circadian rhythms, daily cycles of being awake, sleepy. If you've ever done night shift work, you know that you're basically fighting your biological clock there. In 1967, as it says on 309, Kurt Richter actually discovered a key area in the hypothalamus that seems to be the regulator of the sleep-wake cycle, and he called it the suprachiasmatic nucleus, right above the optic chiasm, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that seems to be the key area that really controls sleep functioning. There's a gland there called the pineal gland, and that particular gland, actually, serotonin is secreted in there, which is involved somewhat in sleep behavior, as well as melatonin. Serotonin is a precursor for melatonin, so some of your comments about melatonin, it looks like in the book page, 311 talks about melatonin as well. These seem to be a few key neurotransmitters involved in sleep and waking. And obviously, we know that sometimes when people have depression related to low levels of serotonin, light therapy, as 312 says, can actually work out and help things out. So that's some basics about sleep and waking. Next, I wanted to go into the stages of sleep. Page 319 and 320 kind of go over that as well. When we go to sleep, and if you look at the picture after the agenda, many times we can measure people with an EEG. Page 319. The picture I have as well, you put little recording electrodes on the scalp, and it basically picks up waves going on as you fall into sleep. And so if you turn to page 320, when we're awake right now, hopefully you're paying attention, you show alpha wave activity, alpha and beta, which is basically high frequency, low amplitude waves. Your brain's just basically having lots of action potentials, and the EEG is picking that up. When you first fall asleep, you go into stage 1 of sleep, the waves get a little more in synchrony, and you start showing during the first phase of sleep the theta waves. Theta waves are very interesting. Many times people don't know that they're actually falling asleep, but then if you wake somebody up, they'll be, oh, I just fell asleep. They're probably having theta wave activities. Stage 2, you can see there as well, you have sleep spindles. Those are periods of high frequency activity, and then a sharp negative wave called a K complex. As you go into progressively deeper stages of sleep, 3 and 4, we start seeing delta waves. Delta waves are where neurons are actually starting to fire at the same time in synchrony. And so when they do this, you start seeing high amplitude, low frequency waves that basically go on, and those are delta waves. And then what basically happens is you fall into REM sleep, and REM sleep is also called paradoxical sleep because you're in your deepest stage of sleep, but if you look at the EEG pattern, it looks like you're awake. One of the best predictors of somebody going into REM sleep, as stated on 320, is you start seeing what's called PGO waves. Those are waves that basically start happening first in the pons, which is part of the hindbrain. I think I said that right. The pons, the geniculate, which is actually part of the thalamus, and then the occipital lobe. And what we think this might mean, this electrophysiological thing called the PGO waves, this might be the start of dreaming, because the occipital lobe, you get all these visual images of dreaming going on, and this might be what's predicting dreaming. There was one episode, if any of you ever watched Star Trek The Next Generation, where they actually showed Deanna Troi going into having PGO waves and then going into REM sleep. So PGOs seem to predict that. REM sleep, you have dreams going on during there. You're in your deepest stage of sleep, but the EEG actually looks like you're awake. Let's see, as we get older, a REM sleep actually gets worse, and actually if you wake somebody up a whole bunch of times during their REM sleep, they will have, as you look at 322, REM rebound and go into a much deeper stage of sleep more quickly and even have periods of micro sleep as well. As far as the function of sleep, our best guess, well, we obviously all need sleep to rest and REM to rest and rejuvenate. It's called the activation synthesis model on 329. They talk about the idea that you basically put together what's going on through sleep and dreaming, and that's really the purpose of things. So, we know that information. Let me kind of keep going on our outline. There's been a lot of interest in the neuroanatomy and neurochemistry of sleep, with the idea being if we can figure out exactly what neurotransmitters are involved, type reductionism again. Can we figure it out? Can we fix it? And can we help people sleep? Obviously, Roman numeral 4, insomnia is a big deal. We know the pineal gland and its melatonin is important in sleep, and some of you take that. In the hindbrain, in the raphe area of the hindbrain, it's kind of near the pons, we call it the raphe area, there's a whole lot of serotonin. And, you always hear if you drink a glass of warm milk before bed, milk has tryptophan in it. It is converted into serotonin. That might help you sleep. But research actually doesn't indicate that serotonin really has a lot to do with falling asleep. You don't really have type reductionism with serotonin. The pons, in an area of the hindbrain called the pons, there is a whole lot of acetylcholine, and acetylcholine seems to be very, very important. I think I gave you a little abstract that actually if you block acetylcholine in the pons, I think one of the activities or one of the abstracts said this, you can actually stop REM sleep. So it seems that acetylcholine is very, very important in REM sleep. And if you block the acetylcholine up there, you'll actually really screw up the PGO waves and REM sleep. So that certainly seems to be the case. And then another structure that seems to be very important in waking is the locus coeruleus, also in the hindbrain area. And I think I have an abstract there, somewhere in there, it is, D, that they've actually found that in organisms when animals are waking up, behaving rats, when they wake up in the morning, there's a whole lot of activity going on with norepinephrine in the locus coeruleus. So acetylcholine and norepinephrine in the hindbrain seem more type reductionistic for their ability to cause REM sleep for acetylcholine and norepinephrine to be awake. This gets into, actually maybe I'll cut it here to go into the next part. Thank you.